Alright, in this video we're going to take a look at some Japanese guitars. These are this is actually a Kawai, excuse me. These are Kawai made, I think probably around 1964 or 65-ish. This is from their SD series. I think this is a SD2W, something like that. But the 2 would have the 2 pickups, the SD3 would have the 3, and the 4 would have the 4. Very similar to this series is the what's known as the Hound Dog Taylor guitar that we see here. And essentially what I'm doing, I only have enough parts to really make one of these right at the moment. I'm going to have to make some reproduction parts and steal some and look through my parts drawer and steal some parts and mix and match some things to make these whole. One of the parts that it's kind of hard to come by is this little headstock thing. Essentially all it is it's like a piece that just kind of fits, and you can see the footprint there. It just kind of fits over here like this, and it's kind of a more decoration than anything. But it kind of doesn't look, these models kind of don't look right without it on the headstock, and when I got this Hound Dog Taylor, it didn't have one of these. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make my own part. I'm going to try to make this part, and what I've done is gone to Lowe's and gotten a paint roller tray and made a tracing here. This is going to be real hard to see. I'm sorry about the camera work. It's the lighting and everything. It's real hard to see, especially when you got a reflective surface like that. But yeah, what I'm going to try to do is get my Dremel tool here and cut this part out. I've traced it all out, and we're going to see how close I can get. I don't know if I'll be able to do this or not, but I suppose we'll see. After I'm done with this, I'll probably make a paper tracing of this, so if I ever need to make this part again in the future, I'll be able to. But let's see how it works out. I'm going to take the Dremel tool to this, and we'll catch right back up. For this operation, I'm going to use a cutting wheel, and hopefully, like I said, I'm hoping this will work out, but you never know with this sort of thing. This might just end up being sort of a disaster. But I think what I'm going to start doing is drill the holes first, because that way I'll have a good large stable surface on which to do that. I'll draw these smaller holes, the mounting holes, and drill those as well while this thing is still attached. So the first thing I'm going to do is get out my drill and drill these holes out, and then we'll come back and cut this thing with this Dremel tool. Okay, I've got my pilot holes all drilled. I've also drilled my mounting holes for the mounting screws. Got a little bit overzealous with this first one, and it kind of popped through a little sooner than I expected, and I put a little dent in it. I'm hoping I can, when I've got this all cut out, I can flip this thing over and just tap it with a hammer and smooth that back out a bit, but I think that'll be fine. It's going to be partially hidden by a screw anyway, so it's not going to be a huge deal. At least it'll be better than no part at all, so I'm not that concerned about it. But yeah, all's well so far. Let's drill out the bigger holes, and then we'll cut this thing. Okay, you'll have to kind of look past my big old giant mess here, but I guess that's the price of genius, having all this mess out on your workbench. Yeah, I want to check and see how big these holes are. Easy way to do that is to take each one of my drill bits and just stick them through and see which one fits through. That's the first one that fits through, pretty snug. The only thing is I'm a bit scared of the fact that this is kind of what holds these little spacers in, these little string grommets. Well, I say that, it's not necessarily true. It's not held in by the piece of metal, so but I still want to try to get these in as straight a line as possible, and I think I've come pretty close with my pilot holes, and hopefully my pilot holes will make sure that they go fairly straight. But one thing I definitely want to do is make sure that when I drill these, I don't pound through to the other side. And actually, if I was smart, I would get a piece of wood. And I think that's what I'm going to do right now. Get a piece of wood and stick under there so I don't drill into my darn workbench. Because that would be just stupid to have holes all in the bench. So this piece of wood's too big, really. Let's see if we can make it work. I'm all about making shit work that really, by all rights, isn't supposed to work, so you'll have to bear with me here. Okay, I want to make sure I don't drill these in between holes, because those are, of course, the mounting holes, so I just want to drill these 6 holes. I think this pilot hole is going to serve me pretty well, it feels like. One thing I don't want to do also is push down too hard as this happens, because if you push down too hard, I'm just going to end up bending this whole thing. It's all out of whack. So. Didn't really go quite as smoothly as I'd hoped, but I still think we might be able to salvage that. What I'm probably going to do with that, when I get this whole thing out of here, tap that back down a bit and then go after it with my little files. But this is probably the best bit that I have for this purpose, I'm thinking. Actually, no, that's not true. To prevent these other ones from doing the same thing, I'm going to go to this big, I think I'm going to use this big Christmas tree bit, and it's also called a step bit, and I'm just going to step down to the size that I actually need. And I think that's going to make it go just a bit smoother. So yeah, let's do that. Okay, I've actually used a different Christmas tree. I've got a few of these little guys, and this one has a big driver on it. I don't want to have to change drills. I'm going to use this one. So this one has a 3/8 size bit. It's number 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the 4th bit in. So see if I can just clean this one up a little bit first. But what my intention here is, like I said, come back and whenever this is all cut out, I'll hammer this one down, and then come in here with my Dremel tool and finish it out on that inside. Let's see how the step bit goes. Maybe it'll go a little smoother. Definitely smoother. Okay, that was my 3rd one. This last one should be the last one. Perfect. That's absolutely perfect. I should have done that from the start. So, next time I make one of these, I guess I'll know. There's number 1. Third step, and one more step. Definitely don't want to go too far with these steps, because once you go too far, that's it. You have to start all over again. Okay, I've actually decided to make 2 of these. I think the principle's sound. There's a bit of an economy in repetition, so I'm going to, instead of just making the 1, I'm going to make 2, and that way I'll have a spare on hand if I ever get another one of these guitars that doesn't have one. So just as easy to leave 1 drill bit in and drill 12 holes as almost it is to put the drill bit on and get the drill out and do all that crap and trace another one. And so yeah, economy of scaling up my production here from 1 to 2. Just got a couple more holes to drill here, and then I can get to the cutting. Here's the wheels I use for this purpose. It's, let's see, Dremel cutoff wheel number 409. If you're doing something like this, these little cutoff wheels, you can get, you can get a little canister of them like this. But these are real handy. As a matter of fact, I use these all the time for doing stuff like if you have a screw that's just stubborn and won't come out of a guitar. And a lot of times, the heads will break off the things, especially on headstocks when you have real hard maple, and then you have the screws that hold just hardware on the headstock, and you try to turn that, and it's never been turned before, and it might be a little rusty, and it might be real stuck in there, and the head just spins and breaks right off. A lot of times you can take one of these little wheels after the fact, and you can cut a slot in it and use it. Then you can get a straight screwdriver after it and get it out of there. So they're real handy to have around for a lot of reasons, not just cutting stuff off like this, but lots of different things. One thing you got to really watch for with these wheels, you heard that there at the end where it got caught. A lot of times if you get these caught in a bind, they'll get caught, and that's what happens. You see this one's, that one's not round anymore. If you get them down in a bind where you've cut this way and then you've turned and cut at a different angle and then you kind of turn back, a lot of times if you're not careful you'll get you'll break these, and that's when things start flying. Usually okay as long as things aren't flying. And stupid me, I don't use any real protective eyewear. I have glasses, and I usually shove them up as far against my face as I can before I start doing something like this, and it's probably not the smartest idea. I'll be the first to admit I don't always observe the safety, common safety rules to a T like I probably should. So if you're watching this and you're mimicking me, you're doing so at your own risk. Yeah, this thing's hard to get out. Now I probably shouldn't try to change these too much without actually unplugging this Dremel or turning it off. I think they actually recommend you do that too, but you just got to keep your hand away from this. You definitely don't want this thing coming on while you're trying to unscrew something. But I sure wish that sucker would come out of there. Make my life a little easier. Sometimes when you've used these for a minute, they kind of get really on there. Stuck pretty well. It's tight. Okay, so there's 2 of those wheels down. Here's my 3rd one. I might actually be able to get this one done with maybe using 4 of these wheels in total. There's one cut out. It's still not a finished piece. But there she is cut out. At least it's rough. What I'm going to do now is get my other Dremel wheel. I'm going to put this in a vise, and we'll go around the edges and smooth everything out so it doesn't cut you all to pieces when you try to handle it. But I'll cut out this second one, and then we'll go to work on the sanding. Okay, I've got two of these cut out now. Here's number 2. So yeah, cool. I think just these 2 parts alone will easily more than pay for this little thing cost. And you can't find these anyway. I mean, this is the only way to get one. You have to make them. I guess I could have gone to a machine shop and maybe had them measure this one and punch me out some, or find another way to make them, perhaps a little easier. But yeah, this should get the job done. Let's get our vise out. Stick one of these in the vise to begin with, and then we'll go to town and sand the edges. And you want to make sure that when you're doing this sort of sanding, you don't get way out here where your vise isn't directly clamped to, because if you have something that's kind of a bit floppy like this piece is, you're going to go all over the place and cause yourself problems. So stick right here to the area where the vise is, and then if you have to move along, move it. Okay, here we are with our finished products. We have 2 reasonable facsimiles of our original part, which is here. You know, obviously I still need to polish these and clean them up a little bit. They're always going to be steel. They're not going to be plated chrome like the original part. So they won't be quite the same color, or maybe not quite as shiny. But again, you know, somebody who's just looking at it from 2 feet away, or who's never seen one of these models before anyway, is never going to know the difference. You know, as always, the goal here is not to deceive a potential buyer or anything like that. The goal is really to try to make the thing look the way it did when it came from the factory, or as close as you can possibly get to it. I mean, it's definitely going to be a hell of a lot better than just leaving it off. So yeah, we've done what we set out to do. Thanks for watching this video. Hopefully you don't cut one of your fingers off or get a big bunch of metal splinters in yourself while trying to do something like this, and if you do, don't blame me.